Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday show After Dark. I'm Promise. Some of you still know me as Eve. That is the same person. Sorry that that's confusing, but I decided that I'd actually like to use my real name instead of the one that the internet bestowed upon me. And you guys know Owen. I'm so excited to finally, we were just saying, we've never worked together, but we did meet IRL, which is kind of rare for this work.
That's very true. We did hang out.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I remember I messaged you first, and I won't say my dad's name, but because you make amazing content, and I had been sent your content because you had some videos about my dad.
Yep.
And which was really funny is people sent them to me like not even knowing that was my dad. They're like, "Oh, check out this video." And it's like,
really?
"Oh,
Wow, that's so crazy. That's got to be surreal.
It is. I mean, it still happens all the time. Every now and then he's on Right Wing Watch, and that's exciting to have that sent to me. But no, it was great because I actually appreciated your content and just how you make content in general, how you talk. I guess it's not just how you make content, but it's how you talk about things. And it was just really fair and logical and not some unnecessary like gossip hit piece, because there's a lot of things about my family that I super, super, super disagree with and think is crazy and like wildly false. But some of these channels will make content about like, oh, and then he's doing this kind of scandalous thing. It's like, no, all the craziness, unfortunately, like that's it. It's there. That's what it is. So anyways,
and also I'll not always making fun of people, like not laughing at them, saying they're stupid or any of that stuff. I try not to do that. I feel like respecting people gets you a lot further in this kind of realm of trying to convince people otherwise, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I think that's one of the things I said to you was like, I could send this to my dad and not feel like, okay, ignore this part because we both know that's wrong. But like, hey, this was a good point. Like you were just making good points the whole time. And I always really appreciate that about you. So I'm excited to now get to talk to some other people. I doubt my dad will call in, so we probably won't be talking to my dad, but awesome. But we do have that. That would be hilarious if we can ever make that happen someday. But how are you? How's life? We haven't actually, I should say the phone number real quick. If you guys want to call in, we're going to prioritize theist callers, 720-619-2288. But anyways, how's your weekend been?
Yeah. Things going pretty well. I have lived in New York City for the past 5 years. Up until very recently, I just moved out of New York City, just kind of in a suburb of Philadelphia, because I feel like New York City is just full of scams. Like literally everything you do is, I don't know. It's awesome in its own way, but it's also really frustrating too. So anyway, I'm just adapting to suburbs again. Yeah.
I think when we met at ACON last, when was that? 3 years ago or something? You were moving. So. You were still living in New York, but you were moving to a new place in New York City. So,
yep.
Love moving. Well, that's awesome. I am hoping we get some amazing, honest theist callers that want to have good discussions. I love when we can actually engage. I don't know what kind of calls you end up liking, but I love the ones where they firmly state their belief, what God they believe in, why they believe in that God, and then we can actually talk about it. We'll see what kind of theist callers we get, but those are my favorite. It's like a real conversation instead
Absolutely. I love those 100%.
Well, and once I hear, what is your big red flag on a call? Because mine is if I hear a voice modulator, automatically I'm like, well, this isn't even going to be a good clip.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about it.
That's one of my big ones. Or when they won't tell me, when I say, which God do you believe in? And they don't want to answer that question. That's a red flag for me.
I haven't really put any I don't know. I don't have enough experience yet to be able to identify the trolls, but I've noticed that pretty much
I'm still
every
learning.
theist scholar that I've taken, they're all like, they're all willing to suspend reality and ignore facts completely. And, you know, that stuff would not work in everyday life. They don't do that for any other thing. It's just this subject. It's
Yep.
wild.
I think that's what makes it frustrating. But I think the callers that I respect the most are when they make that, you know, when they'll only suspend reality, at least about this one. Like, let's get to the one question. But if they're doing it the entire call, then I'm like, you don't actually, I don't even know if you believe this. You know, you're trying to
Yep.
convince mostly yourself at that point. So we do have a theist caller on the line if you're ready to chat to Tom with
Yeah, we
me.
can do that.
All right. Hey, Tom, you are live on the line with Promise and Owen. How are you tonight?
Real good, thanks.
What did you want to talk to us about tonight? It says here you want to talk about historical evidence of Jesus. Is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
So I grew up in the church, so I have my Christian belief of Bible. And over the last 30 years, that definition or idea of Bible has changed. The translation from the original into English, a Q source, and extra biblical.
Yep. We see Bible translations change a lot for sure.
So recently, in 2016, a book was published called A Shift in Time by Lena Einhorn.
Okay, unfamiliar with it, but go on.
So thank you for saying that, because it's relatively new, and that helps me a lot. So basically, she uses Flavius Josephus and his Greek history as extra biblical source.
Right.
And she says Josephus is a Q source.
Okay, yep, I understand.
So some atheists that I talk to say that disproves the Bible, and other people are very curious about her new theory.
Okay. You know, I've researched this area a little bit, so I may not be the best person to ask about it, but to my knowledge, the Q source is a source that basically the gospel accounts pulled from, or other parts of the Bible pulled from, because there's a common source. I'm not sure how Josephus's writings would have been the common Q source, because Josephus was, I don't think he was even a Christian. I think he was Jewish. I mean, I don't think he followed Jesus or was interested in him. I think he was Jewish, was part of the Roman military for a time, then went on to become a historian, or he was a historian, wrote all kinds of stuff, right? If I'm not mistaken. And he wrote about Jesus a couple of times, but Christians tend to pack in additional times where there are absolute 100% for sure forgeries. He did not write some of this stuff. So I don't know about her theory of it being Q. That doesn't sound logical or right or even possible, since he wasn't like writing about this specific thing. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just not well versed enough on the subject.
So 3 months ago, I would have agreed with you, but having just bought the book and read it, I don't want to say I disagree with you. She presents things in the book which you haven't read that challenge what you're just saying.
And what was her name again?
Lena, Lena, Einhorn, Einhorn.
Okay.
Tom,
A Shift in Time.
What is it about this book? Like, what did it convince you about Jesus?
So in a big general way, there's what's called the synoptic problem. And many atheists that I talk to say they don't believe in Jesus because of the contradictions in the Bible. Specifically the New Testament, specifically...
but Tom, let me get clarity on this.
Yeah.
When you say believe in
Sure.
Jesus, do you mean believe that Jesus ever existed, or believe that he is a God that is still alive and well as far as a God can be?
Sure. So I'm doing it in a big general way because I'll ask 10 atheists that question and get 15 answers.
Right.
So
that's because
for me,
us atheists only agree on one thing. If you ask somebody if they're an atheist, the only thing it means we share in common is a disbelief in gods. So we all have,
Sure.
I don't even know necessarily what Owen's take on the historicity of Jesus is. My take is I don't really care. I care if Jesus is a God. I care if Jesus performed these supernatural things as a God. I care if he actually performed supernatural things, because maybe he wasn't a God, but I still would like to know if something supernatural ever happened. So that's if this is more about the historicity of Jesus, that's not so interesting to me. But are you saying that this book made you believe that Jesus is a God that currently is worthy of worship and worth believing in the current existence of?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
so it is the go ahead, Owen.
I was going to say, I just looked into her out of curiosity, and it looks like she's considered a scholar in the field, but she's considered very controversial and unconventional and does not represent the scientific consensus in the field. So I would take it with skepticism. But, as Promise said, either way we look at it. I actually, I think the historical consensus is Jesus did probably exist. So that's just what I go with, because I'm not an expert on this. Got to defer to experts. So I think Promise and I probably agree on that. But how does this get you to Jesus was real and he was performing miracles and all that stuff? How do we get there?
So in a big general sense, my personal opinion is Jesus did not perform miracles, or the things that he did are not supernatural. There could be a scientific explanation for it.
Okay.
But I do believe, it's my opinion, that Jesus is God, or one of many gods.
Okay, so go ahead.
But why do you believe that a God exists at all?
So there's two questions going on there. I grew up just accepting it without questioning it. And then after college, I started to look for more evidence. And one of the big challenges is in the Bible, the genealogy of Matthew and the genealogy of Luke, and the birth story of Mary and Joseph going to Egypt. There is a very strong contradiction, or a very strong chronological timeline of Jesus being in Egypt and getting back to Jerusalem. That synoptic gospel problem and Q source is addressed in the book A Shift in Time, and she says that Jesus went from Jerusalem as a young child back to Egypt by himself. And
I'm so sorry I keep interrupting you, Tom, but I'm just getting a little concerned that the answer is you believe there's a God because you believe the Bible, and I think you're explaining to me why you believe the Bible right now. But I'm still not understanding how we get to the belief in the existence of a God. We don't even have to get to why you believe it's the Christian God. It's just because there's all kinds of books that are amazing that have all kinds of things, but I'm still really not understanding how we get to the belief in a God. Maybe I'm missing something, and maybe Owen's picking it up. I don't know.
Yeah. So let me clarify. I have my personal opinion. I have the Bible as a source that has contradictions, and I have the work of Josephus written in Greek that tries to harmonize and become a secondary source that helps provide evidence for Jesus being one of many of these Jewish rebellious uprisers.
Okay.
But Jesus is.
Go ahead, finish up there.
Well, Jesus was one of three people crucified on a cross.
Right. Okay.
But Jesus was the only one who had a sign over his head.
Okay. So it sounds like you just believe in the Bible, and it sounds like the reason that you believe it is because because of Josephus and things. The writing a shift in time, to my knowledge, but like I said, that's a controversial opinion that pretty much nobody else knows. So I'm skeptical of it. Let's just assume. Let's take a new starting point, assuming that, since that hasn't been proven, let's just say that's not correct for the sake of argument. Is there something else that gets you to the idea that Jesus was, a God or whatever?
Again, I'm using three things. My personal experience reading the Bible. The second is a shifted time and these brand new ideas that are controversially being presented, and the writings of Josephus as a secondary source.
But Tom,
those
do you
three
have
things
is there any evidence for the existence of any gods outside of your opinion that you've reached based off of these books that have swayed you to believe that they are true? Like, is there any evidence outside of the claims that are made in these books that point to them being true? Because to me, all you've presented us with so far are claims, and I'm just waiting for any evidence.
After 2,000 years, no, I'm sorry, I don't have any other evidence.
Yeah, do you see how that's like super unconvincing and makes me think that there's no reason to believe any of that's true?
I empathize with you, and I just enjoy reading books, and I found these to be very convincing for me personally, and I guess we have to leave it at that.
Yeah, and we can leave it at that. That's fine. I'm just I also love to read, and there's so many books that I read that are so interesting, and books about other books that are interesting. But that doesn't make me automatically believe that the things in the books actually happened and are true and impact reality and impact whether I think a God exists or not. So I'm still trying to get to understand why you, Tom, believe that these things are real outside of the fact that you just read some interesting things. Like, how do you usually decide if something is true or not? If you read about it and you like what you read, or what is your method for determining what is true?
You're the first person to ask that question, so I don't have a simple, concise answer. But it's the same, in general, it's the same way I distinguish between Abraham Lincoln and Batman. There's 10 or 15 questions that I ask myself, and I compare the literature to other kinds of literature. And
what would be one of the biggest reasons why you don't believe that Batman is real and you do believe that Abraham Lincoln is? Like, what's one of the biggest reasons?
Well, it's making a distinction between being a fictional character and being a historical figure. It's the difference between believing that Aesop was a real person who wrote about talking animals. I don't believe animals talk, but I believe Aesop wrote his fables.
So, okay, so let me ask this. There's a book, I think it's called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer. I think that's what it's called.
I've read it. Yeah.
Okay, yep. So that's I think I saw the movie. It's really fun. I want to read the book. And I think we can look at things like that and be like, well, that's silly. Like, we know vampires, like, we don't have any reason to believe that vampires are real. So we can pretty much take away that part already and look at, but it is fun that we threw in an actual historical figure in there. So when reading the Bible, I understand. I have atheist friends that are scholars of the Bible, and they find all of this so interesting, and they find other takes from theists or from non-theists takes on the Bible so fascinating. But when reading this Bible, they don't read it and think, therefore there must be a God. That would be, to me, the same as reading Abraham Lincoln the Vampire Slayer and being like, well, there must be vampires then, because everything else in this is so interesting and compelling. And I do know that Abraham Lincoln is real. So the rest of this, why are we deciding that something as big as the existence of a God, which I would think there would be other evidence for outside of the Bible, why are we taking that? Like, why is that your reason for being a theist?
Because I've studied Egyptian history, and there are many pharaohs that claim to be God. And many of the Greek emperors, they claimed that they were God. And Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great not only are names in history books, but they have a burial plot with their name on it. And
so there's evidence.
Have their name written in stone. And
we can look back.
There's lots of evidence.
You can hear me, right? I just want to make sure I'm audible.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, good. I was going to say, I'm sorry, there's a lag, a delay, so just give me a little slack. I was going to say, that you're saying that there's evidence for those things, hard evidence, that you can go look at and, look at like the historical records, look at things that Abraham Lincoln wrote down or whatever. I'm with you that Jesus was a real person. We can say that for the sake of argument because, that's the historical consensus. But there's no evidence of any of the other claims of this stuff. In fact, there is no evidence of a census. If you remember in the Bible, Jesus was supposed to be going back to Mary and Joseph going back to their homeland or whatever, their historical homeland for a census, and that's how they got Jesus from Nazareth to Bethlehem before he was born, and then back to Nazareth. There was no census. That didn't happen. There is no evidence of anything like that ever. I don't know who my historical ancestors are from 1,000 years ago. I sure as hell don't know where they lived. So it just none of it makes any sense at all. And all of this is kind of being baked into the belief system is the problem. So for the sake of argument, I will accept that Jesus is real. How do we get to he is God? How do we get to, there's no evidence for any of it. Am I still online?
Tom, are you there?
Yeah. I was waiting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm done.
I get your frustration. In my opinion or my point of view, I make a distinction between an agnostic and an atheist. That's why when people press me for my theological beliefs, I identify as a monotheist because I reject the Greek pantheon. I reject the Hindu pantheon.
But Tom, I still don't feel like you're really answering our question, because we're still trying to figure out why you believe that these things are true outside of the Bible. I guess I'll try to ask this way. Are there claims about Jesus in the Bible that you do not believe are true?
Recently, the miracles.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Yes, you did say that. So why? So you think that part isn't true, but you think that Jesus is a God. What made you determine which of those is true and which one isn't?
So your question is asking me to explain 25 years of my life and my journey as a person on Earth. So I'm trying my best.
Yeah.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit there.
Yeah. Sorry. So why do I like banana cream pie but don't like asparagus? I don't know. It's strange to have somebody ask me that, and if I had more time to think, I could give something, really clear and concise.
And that's fine. If for you this is more based on just faith and you just believe it because that's how you are and who you are, then you know what? I'm happy to end the call on that and on that spot, unless Owen has other questions. I think I'm just curious if you think that other people should believe this as well. Then I'm curious. Then that's why we get to the okay. Why should we believe it?
And I'm trying to explain the difference between me being a child and just taking it because they say so. Me questioning Jesus as a real person in light of feeding 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and finding a historical, real person that historically was crucified on a cross with the title King of Jews put over his head.
How do you know that actually happened? How do you know that title was physically put up over his head?
Because of sources outside the Bible. Because of the work of Flavius Josephus.
Did he write about that? I don't know about that.
I'm not sure that he did. Even still, let's get to the
you're
part.
backing me in a corner.
We're just asking you questions, Tom. We're just trying to get to something. I thought we were having a nice conversation. If you don't want to have the conversation anymore, we don't have to. That's totally fine. I'm offering you several outs. But I'm just trying to get to I'm trying to help you convince me, and we're still having a hard time getting there. Because I'm not following, and that's okay. But if you do think this is something we should believe, let's figure out good reasons why Owen and I should agree with your perspective that Jesus is God. And for me, we haven't even got to the point of why should I believe there is a God? And I'm just trying to connect all these things, because putting a sign, even if you could convince me 100% that we know without a doubt this sign was hung up over someone's head when they were crucified that said that, and if you could convince me that had never happened before in history, even still, you would have to then convince me that it wasn't a joke, that it wasn't, that it actually meant anything at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand your question, and unfortunately, I'm not the person to do that. If the callers before me couldn't do it, I don't see why I'm going to do it.
I'm always waiting for the person that's gonna show up with something I had never heard of before, and I'm ready for it. I'm waiting. I have proven in my life that I am willing to drastically change my mind when presented with a good reason to. I changed my whole entire life because I realized that I didn't have a good reason to keep believing what I did. So I'm happy to change my beliefs again. I've done it before. I'll do it again. I'll change everything. That's fine. I'd make a lot of money too if I did that. Can you imagine the book deal I'd get? Right. But it hasn't happened yet. So Tom, do you want to just leave this at, we're at 22 minutes now. Do you want to just leave this at, you believe on faith, and maybe you'll call back when you have a good reason to give us to why we should believe as well?
Let me try and do it this way. Step one is making a distinction between as George Washington and Spider-Man. Step two is what philosophers call the ontological philosophy, where I'm making a distinction between Zeus and Mercury. How do I prove that they're a god?
Let's get to your first point.
And step three, should you worship it? Well,
sure.
Just because I prove it's God, you don't have to worship it. It doesn't bother me.
For you. Based on your first point that you said, let's determine, what did you say, between George Washington and who?
It just randomly grab a comic book hero. It doesn't.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go with Spider-Man. Tell me this. How much would your life change on a day-to-day basis if you found out that George Washington wasn't really actually a real person?
It would be confusing. It'd be hard at first, but I think I would come to deal with it.
How much would your life change if you discovered that a God didn't exist?
If you erased, oh gosh, I can't think of one of those emperors, but one of those Egyptian pharaohs who said, "I am God."
But Tom, if you discovered that no gods exist whatsoever, would that change your life and how you live your life?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And if it was proven to me that without a doubt there is a God, that would change my life. I'd spend a good amount of time trying to figure out exactly which one and how many, first of all, and what I need to do about it. But that's way more. That's why this is such a bigger deal than George Washington. Because to me, it's like, okay, well, that's shocking. History books were wrong about something. Like, okay.
But that's
but
the
this
reason.
is a bigger deal. So Tom, what I'm getting to, because I'm wrapping up this call, because I do see we've got other people on the line now. But what I'm getting to is we need good reasons to believe something as large as a God. That is, as you and I both agreed, a life-changing fact if it were proven to be fact, or if it were proven to be not fact. So, or proven to be like a fact that God doesn't exist at all. So to me, that's why when you call back, which you're welcome to, I'll be hosting Tuesday night on Chewed Gum. I need solid, good reasons to believe that a God exists, not just reading the Bible, because I did that, not just reading books about the Bible. I did that. I need reasons to believe that a God exists in general. Owen, do you have any more to add before we let Tom go?
No, I think that's good. That wraps it up pretty well. It sounds to me like the reason for believing it is because, it's a very emotional kind of thing that you've always believed in. And that's okay, but it's not like you have your experience, but I don't have that experience. So it's not something that I don't think you can convince me with anything that you've got. But that's okay if you have it. I just don't think there's reason to believe it. That's all.
Good night.
All right. Thanks,
okay,
Tom.
thanks.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Also, he mentioned banana cream pie, and I just realized I had that in my fridge. Totally forgot.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
I'm so jealous. That's one of my favorite desserts.
Same.
That's solid. I've got announcements for you guys. If I can figure out what date even is it. March 16th is today. Tomorrow, March 17th, we've got Skeptalk with Forrest and Erica. Could be a 2-hour episode, could be a 9-hour episode. You never know. That's always exciting. And then Tuesday, Chewed Gum, that's going to be with Alyssa. And of course, I'll be there too. Then we have the Hang Up on Wednesday with Matt Dillahunty and Eric SS. TACIS on Thursday with Arden and Josie. And then I think there's a Cus I Wanna on the 21st. It says there is, but I don't know who's doing it. So maybe there will be. I don't know. And then the Sunday show, that is TBD for now. Although the evening will be, the After Dark show will be Forrest and Durante. So that's our
awesome. And there's something else I wanted to mention. American Atheist Convention is coming up in, I think, a month, April 17th. I'm going to be there. Genetically Modified Skeptic's going to be there. Possibly some other really big YouTubers. I'm not sure. We'll see. But I would love it if you guys could come with me. It is in Minneapolis. Yeah. And
part of me is like, can I find a way? Maybe.
Yes, it's going to be awesome. And yeah, I hope to see you guys there. Basically, my wife works for American Atheists, and she has to be there for from Wednesday to Monday, so longer than usual. So I'm just going to be sitting around. So if you want to hang out with me, then for real, just come over and we'll hang out and, talk about philosophy and stuff. That'd be cool.
That's exciting. Yeah. And that's where I met Owen and his wife originally. So
yeah.
Super cool. And it was such a fun time. I loved that. That's where I met I think Arden and Matt for the first time. I met Arden in the bathroom because I was having a fashion emergency and you were so nice and helping me. I was like, I don't know how to fit. I think something like some skirt or something. Anyways, exciting times at Atheist Experience. Also, Owen, I don't know if you were there for this. That guy that like stalked me into the bathroom. Were you there
Oh
when
my
that
God,
happened?
I hear about this.
And Dave Warnock had to chase him away while we were waiting on security to get there. He showed up. He had driven all the way from Florida with a book that he had made full of cutout pictures of Jared Leto, Lady Gaga,
Oh my God.
myself, and Matt,
Oh my
who
God.
had just met for the first time. And it was like this story about the Antichrist and that Matt and I were called to take on the Antichrist, which that already doesn't make sense. Anyways, really exciting things happen at American Atheist. I keep calling it the wrong thing. Anyways, that's
it. Yeah, American Atheists. Yeah, and their website is atheists.org, by the way, if you want to get information on it.
There we go.
They're not paying
Easy.
this. I'm just super excited to see people. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to mention about it. It's going to be fun though.
That's so awesome. I love that. Now I'm like, I know I said I guess technically I'm not leaving for Europe quite yet by then. So now I'm like, maybe
can you squeeze it in?
Maybe I can make it happen. I have a husband who's always down for a road trip, so
yeah,
we'll see. Okay, cool. Well, we've got another theist on the line. If you're ready for that call, talk to Brady.
I'm ready.
Hey, Brady. You are live on the line with Promise and Owen. How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing well.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I called in on Wednesday and I listened back. It didn't sound like it was very clear. So
I wasn't on Wednesday, and I don't think Owen, were you on Wednesday?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so you got two new hosts, so we can start from scratch.
Sounds good. Well, sorry about the last caller. I didn't feel like he really provided great evidence for God, or I don't know I suppose the validity of.
Yeah, we'll take any evidence. That would be great.
All righty, sounds good. Anything? Well, no, I won't go there. So, what is your guys' understanding of faith and what it means in Scripture?
Faith?
Yeah.
Faith has lots of different, based off of all the religious people I've talked to, it has different definitions, depending on who you ask. Based on my 20 plus years in Christianity and the different denominations I participated in and the different pastors I grew up around, even between Christians in the same denomination, they'll define faith differently. So I think what would be most helpful, if you want to talk about faith, maybe if you define faith for us.
All right. Well, fair enough. So would you guys be opposed to, I don't know, using faith as an action word? Like it's more of
I just need, if you define the word for me, then you can use whatever word, however you want. I just need it to be defined.
Well. So rather than like mere belief, right? That it's like test and trial. If that makes sense.
Tests and trials. Can you explain what you mean by that? Because I feel like we're using one religious term to define another, but I just kind of would like pretend like you're explaining this to somebody who's never heard of any of this before.
So,
and just to clarify, you're saying that faith trials to you, is that right?
Yeah, well, Well, for me, in my experience, and I think it's more. I think there's more validity to this definition of faith than simply just mere belief, right? I think, you know, I don't want to get caught off guard saying that I think, you know, like just because I think there's scriptural evidence for it, but
So you said you think there's evidence for it?
Yeah, well, just to define what faith means, just from a scriptural standpoint.
Well, so Brady, we don't even need to. If you don't want, we don't have to define. Like, I really just want to know. I guess you're a Christian. Is that right? You believe in the Christian God?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about script. Okay, cool. I'd just love to hear why you believe that a God exists. That's what I'd be most interested in hearing. And if you need to use the word faith, you can use that word. But you know, that's the question of the day: is why do you believe that a God exists?
Well, I think for me it goes back to religious experiences. I don't think, you know, you know, I suppose for most people, you know, they read the text and just take it at face value. But you know, that never really worked for me before.
Is it like so? It sounds like this is like something that you just believe because you believe it, not based on any kind of hard evidence. Does that sound right?
No. Faith is based on hard evidence, but it's dependent on acting on principles and teachings in Scripture.
Faith is based on,
you know, and seeing the promises and blessings that come from that.
Okay, I'm not sure I fully understand where you're coming from with this.
Well, maybe I can use somewhat of an analogy. So, like, if you were going to a doctor, or I don't know, or I guess if you were sick and you were seeking advice or help from anybody, and you know, other people have had this experience, right? They had the same experience that you've had. You go to them and they give you a number of things to do to treat yourself, but I mean, you don't really know for full, you know, if whatever treatment they're giving you is going to help, right?
But we believe that it's going to work because we've seen hard evidence that people who have, for example, had cancer, we've seen hard evidence that these doctors are capable of curing their cancer. Or like we go to an eye doctor, we take it not on faith, but on my definition of faith is what the Bible's definition is. Basically, belief in things unseen, i.e., belief without evidence. I'm not going to a doctor and assuming he's going to cure my cancer on faith. It's based on evidence, not faith. They're mutually exclusive. If you have faith,
I don't think they are, though.
And if you have evidence, you don't need faith.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't think those things are necessarily mutually exclusive, because I think the evidence for faith comes from behavioral changes. It can be seen in behavioral changes, or
But Brady, I know people that are atheists that were Christians, and when they were Christians, they were making terrible decisions, and they were not displaying what you would call the fruit of the Spirit. And now that they aren't believing anymore, they made other changes in their life. They are, I would say that they have what you would probably experience as the fruit of the Spirit. They have joy in their life. They have peace. They're like, so I've seen that. I've also seen people that were Christian and then converted to Islam, and they've had behavioral changes. So again, that's not getting us to evidence for a God. That's evidence that different things you believe and different changes you make in your life impact how you behave. But we're still not getting to any, like, why should Owen and I believe that there's a God? Like, what can you point to for us?
I mean, for me, I can point to you guys. I can probably point you guys to my own religious experiences, but
do you think that personal experiences are a good reason to believe entire reality changes? Like, if I told you that I had an experience that aliens came and took over my house and then disappeared, do you think that's do you think me really thinking that happened is a good reason for you to believe that there are aliens now that are taking over people's houses?
No, but I think it depends on what we're I don't know. I suppose it really depends more on the story, though. What, like, I would have to know the full context of the story.
I don't think it depends on the story. I think that there are people out there that have very convincing abduction stories, and they believe it. They are more confident they're right than I am confident that I'm right. Like, I'm 95% sure I'm correct on the things that I believe, but they're 110% sure. So they're even halfway believable stories. They saw an object in the sky and they didn't know how it was moving or whatever. Even halfway believable stories doesn't make it credible enough for me to believe, because it's an extraordinary claim, and I'm going to need more than just a little bit of evidence to believe the claim. Now, I can say anything about whatever, and it's not a big deal. Like, I can say I have banana cream pie in my fridge, and it's not a big deal. Like, who cares? It's a thing.
Yeah.
But the claim that God exists or doesn't is not low stakes. It affects people's lives deeply. So I'm going to need extraordinary evidence for that extraordinary claim.
Yeah. Well, I think well, there's a scripture that says let him what's the scripture again? Somewhere in James, I think. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. And that can mean
Brady,
several different things to you guys.
I understand,
but,
right? But why should we listen to you versus somebody calling in and quoting any other book?
Like a Muslim, for example.
I think Muslims. That's a good question, because, well, I mean, I personally think
Brady,
Christians, Muslims, and Jews, we all worship the same God. It's just based on minor interpretations, right?
What about Hindus?
Hindus, I'm sure they will. I don't know. I'm sure we all worship the same God.
Well, Hindus believe in multiple gods. So, but can I ask you this?
Well, they do believe in multiple gods, but it's like it's.
I had the banana cream pie in my fridge. Evidence. There you go.
Banana cream pie evidence. I love it.
Yeah.
But Brady, you don't have to answer
great.
this, but I have a question for you. How long have you been a Christian?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you my background just really quick. So I did grow up in the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints. But
I think
I didn't
someone
really
guessed that correctly.
What's that?
I think someone in the chat guessed that correctly. You used to be a Mormon then, or are you still a Mormon?
Really? Oh wow, they guessed it, huh? Yeah. So I'm a member of the church now, and but I didn't receive a testimony. Maybe I don't think even until this past year. And last fall I didn't really I want to say I really dealt with much of necessarily a faith crisis, but it was enough to get me to really question like whether God was real. I think at the time I was felt pretty suicidal.
Okay.
And I was struggling with a lot of other things too. Like
Were you, this is super personal, so you don't have to answer. Are you in your
Yeah,
mid-20s?
Yeah.
Cool. So I just want to throw this out there. First of all, I'm so sorry that you were struggling with that. I've been there. It's not a fun place to be. I unfortunately do think a lot of us go through that in our 20s. And I stopped believing in a God when I was about 26, 27, 26, actually. I was turning 26. And it was through it was a process. It was a lot of searching. I was trying to get actively closer to God because I was in desperate need of God's closeness in my life. And it was through that searching and that seeking that I discovered nobody was there on the other line. And so I think that what we're hearing and why somebody even predicted in chat that you are Mormon is because you sound to me as though you're following a bit of a script, which is how I sounded when I was still religious, following the things that I'd been taught my whole life because I just really needed them to be true. And I was so terrified of what would my life be if these things weren't true, if I didn't hold on to them. And I would just encourage you to go back and listen to this call and hear where Owen and I really weren't getting answers from you.
I would have to push back on that a little bit.
I'm almost done, and then I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I understand that you've had personal experiences and all that. I had hundreds of what I would call spiritual encounters or experiences with God. I was in my perspective now, I was crediting them to a source that I had no business crediting them to when there was other explanations for them. And so I think that there's more questions that you, for your own sake, and maybe you'll ask all the questions and you'll get to the point where you're like, no, I really believe this stuff and this is why. But I don't think you're there yet. I think there's a lot more questions, and I think it's a good thing to go ask and figure out and find out for yourself based off something other than just, well, I felt this way one time, and so I've got to find ways to pull all these back to this one thing that I've been believing my whole life that would absolutely rock my world if I discovered wasn't true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I didn't grow up believing really my whole life. Like I don't think I really understand any conception of what God was when I was younger, growing up. Just because I never really put in the time to in the church I grew up in, right? But I don't know, like if you don't mind me asking about your experience when you were in your 20s, did you what was my question here? Did you So you said you were struggling at the time, but
yeah, I was dealing with I was dealing with undiagnosed OCD, with anxiety, with depression. I had all of it. And funny enough,
Yeah.
since I've been working with therapists and everything, we've been able to trace so much of it back to religious trauma, basically, that started when I was like 3. And
Oh my gosh.
was able to I was able to learn all kinds of different tools and emotional skills, and my mental health has only gotten better every year since then. I'm now in a place where I can like host shows like this and have these conversations, and I don't feel crippled
Yeah.
by, anxiety and depression and all of that. And so, um, I think a big part of me ending up on this side of things was letting myself fully go through everything and ask all the difficult questions and just do it fearlessly, because I had reached a point where it was like, you know what? Nothing can be worse than where I'm at right now at this point. Like, if I have to
Yeah.
blow my whole life up and start everything over again, but I find out what is true and what's real, and I stop giving my life over to things that I don't have a reason to, like that was worth it to me. And it ended up being a really, it felt like a tough gamble at the time, but I realized, no, it wasn't a gamble. It was me setting my values in life, which is I want to believe things that are true, and I don't want to believe things that I don't have a good reason to believe. And once I was able to
Yeah.
stay that course, it has helped me so much moving forward in the rest of my life.
Yeah, and I don't want to guilt anybody to believing in God, because that's completely immoral. Just, but
It's okay. It's happened to me before.
you know,
Yeah.
when you were, I'm just curious, but like when you were going through that time and you were questioning like God's existence, I suppose, like were you were you dependent on him? Were you dependent on knowing if he was real? Because I know for me, like at the time, I was like I demanded pretty physical proof that, you know, like that God had to reveal himself to me, like in some way, right? Some miraculous way. Like I thought, if it happened for Joseph Smith, like maybe it should happen for me, but I'm not going to believe um, if, you know, if that doesn't happen for me. So, um, I don't know. Was that your experience?
Yeah, there was a lot of that, but there was also a lot of me kind of learning how to think critically for the first time. So, yes, I had my moments where I was definitely like crying out to God, like, show me something, anything, like, let me know. Like, if you're all powerful God and if you're all loving, then surely
Yeah.
you are hearing how genuine I'm being in this moment. Surely you'll throw me about, like, give me something. Because I was trying to believe. I always say, like, becoming an atheist is something that happened to me. I didn't choose it at all. It happened. And I was actively fighting it. And so I was like, God, please give me some kind of reason. Any God, whichever God. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I picked the wrong one. Like, show me something,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
got nothing, but it wasn't just that, because I also started researching, like, it's such a long story as to why I was even doing that, because it wasn't even for personal reasons at the time, but researching, mystical experiences, personal encounters with gods or with anything supernatural. And I realized that those are not good reasons to believe something,
Hmm.
because the way our brains work and everything. I was also a worship leader at the time. And so I was kind of pulling some of my own experiments, in this evangelical church, where it's like, well, if I raise my hands, then more people suddenly think they felt the Holy Spirit. That's interesting, the manipulation tactics and all of that.
Yeah.
And so, there was so many it wasn't just like one thing. There was a lot to it. And it was basically all the questions I ever had my whole life kind of coming to a head. So yeah, there was kind of like this one moment, but then also it was just like, oh, okay, this is where I've landed. And I don't think I have a good reason to believe any of this is true. And so I'm going to move forward with my life now, knowing that I got this wrong. And that's where I landed.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear if Owen has anything to say about any of this, because I've just been yapping this whole time.
No, that's fine. I'm just kind of kicking back and listening to the conversation. It sounds like the reason that you believe is because you kind of grew up believing it, and it's just in you to believe it. Is that
Or maybe not
No,
even
I didn't
believing
grow
it,
up
but like
believing in it.
being
No.
exposed to it. Being exposed to it is what I would say.
Yeah.
I was
Does that
I was
sound right?
exposed to it. I was exposed to it, but like, like I like I left the church for like 4 years, or so, and I mean I came back um around the time after college, just to um just to see if there was anything I was missing. Like I thought maybe it might have been worth exploring. I think I had some reason to believe, or at least try it out, back then. But like it wasn't really until this year I was really struggling, and you know, and and I grew up, um, um, well, I don't know. I don't know. Is my name Brady, right? Is that the that's what's showing?
That is what they put down, Brady.
That's what
Yes, is that not
Okay,
your
put
name?
down.
okay, yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure. Like I mean, I grew up, like um, with a pretty severe addiction to porn, and I think ever since I was 8, I got addicted at 8, and and I was really dependent on, like I was really hoping that at the time, like last fall, like that I would be, that God was there, but it just kind of felt like nothing was happening. But um, and and at the time, a friend challenged me to question my beliefs, whether you know everything was really true or not, and um, and that just kind of like plummeted me down a spiral, and um, but I listened to, and this is not my reason for believing, but it got me at least questioning, kind of like, at least it did for Promise, in her story. It got me questioning and maybe thinking, like maybe there is a God, but maybe there isn't. I don't know. But I listened to the Exodus series from Jordan Peterson.
The series.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if you guys,
Jordan.
I don't know if you
That's
guys
Jordan
have
Peterson.
watched that, but
I'm familiar. I'm very familiar with it. Yeah.
and I'm not, I don't want to make it into like a political debate or anything. Like I said, that's another day. But I did listen to that debate, and there were a lot of things that that did get me thinking, and maybe at least appreciate the text for just for more of its poetic nature. But but I don't think it was until um the new year started, and um I was talking to I was talking to a friend, and her husband, um and about the existence of God, and and whether he would really answer, and um um and like I wasn't really I wasn't really looking forward to putting any um effort into into praying, or even reading the scriptures at all. But I think at the but after our conversation, they said they would pray for me, and and the next day, um, I felt somewhat in a different mood, and than I was before, and was ready to, um, I don't know, at least had a different mood to attitude towards taking the time to read the scriptures, and to try it out, and just because of hearing about their experiences and reading other people's experiences and their
Yeah. I think
and
what
what God was like for them, and that was more of a but I think but I I think in the same moment, I received a message from another friend who had known nothing about the conversation before, but I do think he was inspired at least to send it to me, and it was and it was a quote from from one of our church leaders, and it said, "As I promise you, as you daily immerse yourself in the Book of Mormon, as you daily immerse yourself in the Book of Mormon, you're..." What was the rest of that quote anyway?
Brady, I'm sorry that we keep interrupting, but we've got other calls, so I'm just trying to get us to a good ending place here.
Okay.
And you're welcome to call back sometime. But I do think what we're getting to over and over again is that you, like Owen said, you've had some personal experiences that you're penning back to the way you grew up, which is super, like, that is what we do as humans. That is absolutely what we do. And that makes sense. I also just want to tell you about a resource that I think you should check out. You don't have to be an atheist or become an atheist to use it or anything. It's called recoveringfromreligion.org. They're amazing. And some of the things you described to me sound like some potential religious trauma or things that come up due to being raised in a like fundamentalist cult type situation. And if that's not true, great, good. I hope that that's not true. I hope that's not a reflection of how you grew up. However, it would be worth you going to check it out and just seeing if you're like, oh, you know what, that does check a box. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully you go look and you're like, this girl is crazy and she doesn't know about me and she doesn't know my life and this is wrong. Maybe though, there's some things there that would really help you, because I know that I didn't know about that resource when I was going through everything. And if I had it, it would have made my life so much easier. They have like a hotline there. They have all kinds of stuff. It's totally worth checking out. But I'm going to end it there. I appreciate you calling. I appreciate you having an honest conversation with us. Again, you're welcome to call back sometime. Chewed Gum is Tuesday nights. Alyssa and I are super chill, cool. We love having these conversations as well. So
well, sorry to take
so much,
up a lot of your time. But yeah, thank you.
No, I'm glad you called. Thanks, Brady. All right. Yeah, I think we're just getting to like personal experience was the root of it. And also, I know some people in the chat are saying like they think that's a troll because of the time taken. I don't think you guys understand the courage it takes some people to call and have an honest conversation on here. And so sometimes it's harder to gather your thoughts. It can be. So I'm not willing to like say somebody was a troll just because they take longer to say something. I don't think that's indicative of that. Owen, we've got several theist callers. Are you?
Yeah, cool I saw one specifically. I was thinking about bringing in.
You pick it.
Okay, all righty, I'll do that. I'm just looking here. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's hit let's hit Jeff. I just brought Jeff in. All right, can you hear us, Jeff?
I can hear you.
Awesome. So I understand you have a syllogism that will confirm the necessity of a God. Lay it on me.
That's correct. My syllogism is basically our species, Homo sapien, we above all things desire what I'm going to call a sound mind. Now that's going to require some unpacking, but I think I can do that easy enough. A sense of sound mind, by my definition, is one that's not negatively affected by, the whims of men or the eventualities of life. That's my definition of a sound mind.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand. So you're laying down a syllogism for us. So the first premise in the syllogism I have here is Homo sapiens.
Is our species. Desires, like say above everything else, a sound mind.
Okay, and what was a sound mind again?
Well, by my definition, just being somebody that's got one of these things, I don't want to be negatively affected by the whims of men or the eventualities of life. I want to be able to say that my mind is mine and it's not being affected from outside sources that I don't necessarily need or agree with. So that's
okay,
kind
so
of
you're
my
saying
definition.
That, in your definition, a sound mind is basically being immune from serious influence, I guess? Is that?
You could put it that way. Serious would have to be unpacked as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, I want to be, I want to be able to, to rest. I want my mind to be able to rest. Maybe that's an easier way to say it. I don't know.
Subjective, like so subjective. Because even as far as like adversities of life, we're all going to define that differently. Because for some people, that's going out in a crowd. For me, that's like a really fun night. So,
it's subjective. Agreed. That is subjective.
To me,
but that doesn't matter. That really doesn't matter. The subjectivity of it doesn't matter. It's still a mind that you can't.
So why don't you lay out all of the premises?
Yeah, it's going to matter to us.
Well, the second premise is that a mind like that doesn't exist. I have talked to thousands of people. Nobody would maintain that a sound mind exists.
Okay.
And that's my second premise. So my conclusion is, by definition, our species is insane. That might be a harsh way to say it, but by definition, we are insane.
Alrighty.
And insanity is repeating things over and over again, hoping for a different result, which we do, well, because we're ego-driven. The ego demands that we repeat things over and over and over again, expecting a different result. So by definition, we're insane.
I've heard that saying that we do things over and over again and expect a different result, but that's not really the definition of insanity. That's just a colloquial thing that people say because it's kitschy and funny or whatever.
I Googled it up, and that's how they defined it.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's it's irrelevant.
Google as your defining source.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's what I've got. Homo sapiens want to be free from influence. Minds outside of influence do not exist. Thus, our species is insane. I don't get where you're arriving at. Being influenced is tantamount to insanity, and also, I feel like there's a logical leap there from being insane to there is a God. I'm not really seeing the connection.
Well, by my definition of a God, it would be that which relieves us of the responsibility of our insanity. And that can be anything. That's where the holy books come from. Couple insanity with the ego, and you've got a holy book.
I'm not sure I fully understand. It relieves us from insanity.
From the responsibility? Do you think God makes us now no longer responsible to what we experience here and now?
That's correct.
Oh boy.
Okay.
There's no responsibility. This God doesn't hold us responsible. But this God doesn't have a name or a title, or anytime you define name or title something, you destroy its credibility. So I don't get much on this particular. Even the word God, I kind of shy away from. But I don't really have a pronoun for it. But anyway, it's just a reality. It's just a reality that I experience it every day.
Sorry, there's a delay. It's a little bit difficult to whatever, but
that's fine.
Let me ask you something. Are you saying that if I went out and murdered somebody, I would not be held responsible for that morally because a God absolves me of that? Is that what you're saying?
No. You would be understood. Because of your condition,
sure what you mean.
You would be understood. Obviously, humans aren't going to absolve you of anything, but the God will, because he understands. You're understood.
Do you think this God created us?
No.
So
I'm not.
essentially, you're just relabeling relief, or even just like irresponsibility, or I would say apathy, as God.
Yeah, essentially.
Why?
Yeah,
Why
since
not call it
like
apathy? Why are you saying this is a God? This makes zero sense to me whatsoever. You're just describing a human feeling as God.
Like I said, I shy away. Like I said, I shy away from the word God because it's got too many
Okay,
labels
here's my
attached
God
to
for
it.
you.
Anyway,
All humans want to experience joy. Let's just go with it. Just agree with me, because that's what I'm deciding. Joy is subjective, but that's fine. Just go with it. And nobody exists that just only ever experiences joy. Therefore, joy is God, because when we experience it, that's God. That's what I'm hearing here. And that's why do that? Why not just say, like, sometimes we experience joy and it's nice to, and we don't all the time?
well, the desire for joy isn't possible. That was my second premise. I mean, the desire is real, but the achieving of it is not real. Yeah, you can't have joy.
Your second premise was minds outside of influence don't exist.
No, not minds. The minds are there.
No, that I literally
that's
wrote
what
it
you
down.
said. We both wrote it down. Yeah.
No, the ego-driven mind with its desires, that desire to be sound, like I say, that mind exists, but the reality of it does not exist.
Then let's
sound
try
mind
this again.
Does not exist.
Humans want a happy mind. Happy is my definition.
I don't like the word
that I'm
happy,
not going to take the time to do. We can go Google
right,
it. Well, I don't
we'll
really like the word sound mind either, but we let you have that one.
We would have
no
to
happy that. No happy minds exist. Therefore, our species is all clinically depressed, and any relief of that, any happiness we ever experience, is joy. That's how much sense you're making to me, Jeff.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be joy. The result's not joy.
It is, because I said so, because I decided.
No, what you're calling joy, I would say, is simply the realization that responsibility is not on is shifted. It's just a relief from the responsibility of the insanity, but it has to be realized, obviously.
This is semantics. We're just using words. We're using words from the English language that are subjective, and we're applying our own individual meaning to them. And then you're taking it one louder and saying, therefore, God.
Well, therefore, relief. Yeah, I mean, you can call it God, but I don't like the term. But
are you just trying to convince us that relief exists? Because I understand. I feel relieved all the time.
But I think it's ego-based, and it doesn't have any staying or lasting power. It's not going to sustain you, nor is it going to be something.
You keep using this word ego. Do you think ego is this actual thing that exists?
Well, the ego, that's a common word, man. There's YouTube channels everywhere discussing the ego.
That's a common word in the English language, because it was popularized by Carl Jung, I think, in his breakdown, or maybe it was Freud. Anyway, yeah, it's a psychological concept. It's not a literal thing. It's not like a little space in our brain that is like responsible for the ego. You could just cut it out and now we don't have an ego or something. Like, that's not how it works. It's just it's a personality quality, a concept, right? So
I guess we could substitute the term self-centered. I mean, we could use something, we could make it easier. I mean, we call it self-centeredness.
I believe self-centeredness I think people can be self-centered. I think people can feel relief. I think people can feel happiness. I think they can experience joy. I think all of these things. Is that what you're calling to debate? Because I'm just going to agree. I'm going to be like, yep, that happens.
Well, like you say, I'm going to, because of my definitions, I guess, I can change them. I mean, I change the wording, but I think I can maintain that's where, like say, where holy books come from. So I don't even worry about those.
We know where they come from. They come from men that sat there and wrote them and made them up.
They're self-centered people that don't have, like you say, that aren't sane. That's how books get written.
I'm not sure how this is getting to the existence of a God, though, or whatever. Like you said that you don't really want to use the word God, and I get that, but I'm not sure where this even gets us in the first place. Like, leaving God aside, where does it even get us to say that joy exists, for example, or that we're all insane or whatever? I'm not sure where. I mean, you say relief, but I'm not sure why you put any kind of emphasis on any of that at all. Like, I can say relief is enjoyable. Relief from like influence is enjoyable sometimes, I suppose, but I'm not sure where that gets us.
Well, I'm not going to maintain that there is any relief. Like I said, I thought I made that clear, but yeah, I don't think there is no relief per se.
Okay.
There's only realization. There's manifestation and realization. That's all we can go on. Relief.
I think we're just using words. I think we're just like throwing words out there and putting them together and hoping that therefore God. And
agreeably, well, agreeably, they do seem to be interchangeable, and I think they are. It would depend on, obviously, the listener, which word they would latch onto. But we're using the same words. They're all synonymous. I don't see where there's any contradiction in terminology.
I can't even agree with that, though, because words are not all the same and generally have distinct meanings. Some of the ones you're using are pretty subjective, so how we define them ends up different. But I can't interchangeably use depression and happiness. So I'm going to be honest, Jeff. I don't really have much more to add to this conversation. Maybe Owen wants to continue asking, but I feel like you're just saying words and therefore theism, and I can't go with it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's much.
Yeah, it's not theism.
Well, I mean, theism or not theism aside.
You are a theist. Yeah.
God, by my definition, is God by my definition is realization. Because anything that I present is going to be based on fact, and I think I can defend any of the premises that I've put forward.
But you haven't.
The insanity. I still would stick with the word insanity because it's exactly what I think it is.
Define. Exactly. Please define insanity for me, Jeff.
Well, the one you didn't like was repeating things over and over again. And insanity
because
is
that's
obviously
not actually the definition. That's a famous quote.
I just Googled it. That's what three of them said that, and they're supposed to be professionals.
Jeff, you gotta use better.
I literally have a degree in psychology. That's not what that fucking means. It hasn't been used as a diagnostic term since the 1920s.
Well, what's the definition that you have? What's your definition, maybe? What's your definition?
I'm looking at extreme foolishness or irrationality and the state of being seriously mentally ill or madness. Those are the two definitions that pop up as soon as you search it on Google. So yeah, I don't know what to do about that.
I could use the word delusion. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, so you think we're all delusional. Why are we talking to you right now then?
Yes.
If we're all just delusional, then why are we having this conversation?
Because we don't know we're delusional.
Nobody seem to think that we are.
Thinks they are.
So, but you do.
My delusional thought.
You are claiming that you are delusional. So we can end it there if you want and move forward. Cool.
That's correct. That's correct.
I'm gonna probably agree with you on that.
Like I said, those are the characteristics of delusional people. They don't know they're disillusioned, and they don't know that they're even getting better if they are getting better. They wouldn't have a clue.
So are you now not delusional because you know you're delusional?
No. But there is some healing involved.
No.
Yes.
Okay, so delusional compared to what? What is this objective standard of no delusion that you are comparing humans to?
Simple realization.
That is not. Okay, I realize things every day, all day long.
Yeah, you can realize it, but you'd have to practice what I do, and that's capturing thought. I have to capture thought and then weigh it against delusion, and I can do that. Yeah. I can do that. Does it change anything? No.
Jeff, I'm going to be honest. I'm over this call. I'm going to let you go. We're just saying things and they're not making any sense. But if you
I
ever want to
apologize.
call
I
back, I guess with
apologize for that.
actual evidence, go for it. But maybe, listen to all that you just said, because you're just like kind of saying things and they're not capturing thought and
Definitions are the
delusion.
problem.
And
I just say
it's not
like
it's,
the definitions are getting in the way. I can use yours, the one that the one that Owen used. I'm perfectly satisfied with that. That's a great definition.
It's not just definitions. I'm talking about how you're just saying words. You're still not offering us any evidence that any of what you're saying is believable.
And also, it doesn't get us anywhere if we did.
Do you have a sound mind? I mean,
I don't know what a sound mind is. I don't even understand what that's supposed to be.
That's why I agreed with you. We're going to have to unpack that. But I know
but
one
Jeff,
thing. If we put it in simple terms, if we put it in as simple terms as I want my mind to be my friend, is that easy enough? I mean, people want to sleep at night. People want their mind to be in their control. They want to control their mind. We know that's not possible.
Maybe some people do. I know some people who want to be out of their mind all the time. So
I can't. Then they know
all you're doing, Jeff. This whole entire call has been you. The few times you've made sense, it's just been because you've been pointing out natural phenomena, natural things about the human condition and how we all think and act, and some similar goals or dislikes or whatever. Other than that, you have not provided evidence of anything other than, sometimes we think different things.
Well, I think Big Farm would disagree with you. I mean, 60% of the country is on some sort of a med. I mean, it's because our minds are so out of control. We don't know how to do this. We're untrained.
If all of us are delusional, maybe we should all be on medication. So I don't know, Jeff.
I will agree with you 100% on that. Yes, I agree with you.
I'm not actually saying that. I don't think that, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
It was being flippant.
Literally.
Conclusion to reach, but somehow somehow you have arrived at that conclusion despite the ridiculousness of it.
I live it every day. I watch it every day.
I don't know where you guys and your personal experience. I believe your personal experience. I don't believe that based off of the common definition of the word delusional, that we are all just inherently delusional, because you're implying there's an objective standard to which there is no delusion, and what that would even be and what that even looks like. So I'm
that objective
we're
standard
humans.
Came from subjectivity.
We're humans. There's no 100% on anything out of any, none of us are experiencing just 100% delusion or 100% whatever, anything that you've pointed out so far. So I've heard no evidence. I hope you have a good night, but I think we're going to end this now.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking my call and giving me and rattling chains with me a little bit. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Have a great night.
Y'all have a good night.
You too. Yeah, that's my problem with things like that, where you just go through and you're just like, this, therefore this, therefore this. Well, then I can just make that up about anything.
Yeah, I was looking at the premises here, and I think the main problem that I had was that we continued to change definitions of words, and we had to define a bunch, and it sounded very flowery. It was my issue with it. We had to define sound mind, and then define insane, and define ego, and everything else, and relief, and and also I'm still not sure what we arrived at. He said he doesn't like the word God, but I don't. Okay. Very confusing.
Yeah. That's how I feel about that. Ugh. Well, do you see another? We've got a couple more calls to get to. Do you see?
Yeah. I was looking at James. Will James work for you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Here. Okay. So, hey, James. I understand you believe in God, but not Christianity. Is that right?
No. I don't believe in God. I know there is a God, but I don't believe in Christianity.
You know there's a God, but you do not.
How do you know it?
Yeah. How do I know it? Because God spoke to me and told me what to do, And when I did what God told me to do, I got some results.
How do you know it was a God?
Pardon me? By the results.
So you're saying that God spoke to you and you did something and you got results and you know that it was a God, or I'm sorry, yeah, you knew it was a God because you got those results. But how do you know that? How do you know it wasn't an alien that was like beaming it into your head or something?
Well, if it was an alien beaming it into my head, then that alien had to be God, because how somebody going to beam something in your head unless they have the power to do it?
It feels like we are capable of a lot right now, and there may come a time when we can beam.
Excuse me now. You just said maybe something beamed it in my head. You didn't say what I was capable of. You say something beamed it into my head.
No, you said
beamed it into my head.
No, sorry,
no. You said how did I know that wasn't an alien that beamed that into my head?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so if it was an alien that beamed it into my head, then that alien had to have powers greater than me, because ain't nobody else beaming anything into my head.
Okay,
that's not,
sure.
So James, that's not what Owen's asking. Owen's asking, how do you know whether it was God or whether it was an alien, or maybe this is all a simulation and there's like a bunch of programmers sitting on computers and they were feeding this to you?
Okay, so where would those computers be? Would that be into the man who preached the gospel to me? Because
I'm not,
I got it.
So James, you're focusing on the wrong part of the question. Let me talk, then I can. Nope.
Okay.
Let me finish
what I'm saying.
I got
it from. Go ahead.
I'm going to mute you. So the way this call is going to go is where we're going to take turns talking, and we will let you have turns talking. Owen and I have done a great job of letting callers talk a lot tonight. We will let you talk. But if one of us is asking something, it's because we're trying to get the call on track. Even if we have to interrupt you for a second, it's because we're trying to keep the call on track. So what our question is what's the difference between it being something else and a God? How did you determine that the only possible answer was that it was a God and not something else?
I was listening to a preacher preaching, and the preacher was preaching on how do you spell relief. So I was interested in this. I was interested in the subject. Then he was talking about the things that people need relief from. So as he was going through the things, he was maybe saying some things that had my interest and had me inquisitive, but he said something very pronounced. He said to me that I didn't have any joy. I was 26 years old, didn't have any J-O-Y, joy.
Okay.
Joy, J-O-Y. So he looked me directly at me and said, I didn't have any joy. Now, when he said that, I thought about it. And as I thought about it, I said, how did he know that? Because I didn't have no joy. None whatsoever. Okay. I examined myself right there on the spot, and I was depleted of all joy. There was no joy in me. But outwardly, you couldn't tell that I was 26 years old. I was nicely dressed. And if somebody would have said you didn't have no joy, I would have laughed them in their face and lied to them and told them I did. But when you said I didn't have no joy, here you go. I'm going to say it right now. There was
you're saying.
There was
how did we get here? Look, I'm going to mute you again just for a second because I'm having some trouble with lag and everything else. But I'm not sure how this kind of furthers our understanding. Like, you believe in a God. I want to believe in a God too, if there is one. Please get me there. You said that you got a message from God and you got results showing you that he was real or whatever. Tell us what it was so that we can be convinced too. Tell us why you also believe so we can be convinced also. I you know, personally, I'm going to unmute you in a second. I'm just going to say, I also felt like I had no joy and then threw myself into religion and then felt like I had joy afterward and then realized that I didn't really have joy. So yes, I think we've all pretty much probably been through this same exact experience. Okay, you're unmuted now. Go ahead.
Okay, so the preacher said you didn't have no joy. I examined myself. I didn't have any joy.
Okay.
Went all up and down through me and examined myself. And I was getting ready.
James, is your whole story that somebody told you? Is your whole story that somebody told you something about yourself that you were surprised they knew, and then you had joy in your life?
He just told me he was gonna let me talk. Now I'm trying to tell you.
I'm sad to tell you that we're both the hosts, and that when we decide we want to talk, we get to talk. If I ask you a question, it's because I'm trying to help you. Because you're not. If you keep interrupting me, I will hang up.
You
James.
talk when you get ready. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay. I'm going to keep you muted now. If we talk, it's because we're trying to help you make sense of your argument, because it's currently not making sense. So we're pausing you because we're on limited time. And every time I unmute this and you start interrupting us, it makes me feel like you are not being honest in this conversation because you're not listening to us. If you actually want to have a conversation, we can. My question for you is your whole story that somebody knew something about you that you didn't know how they could know it's true, and then you were experiencing joy? Because I'm just going to tell you, a pastor going up to somebody and saying, you don't have joy, that's going to work out for him a large percentage of the time, because a lot of people are dealing with awful things in life, and it feels really comforting to have somebody notice that you're going through a difficult time, or that you are depressed, or whatever it may be. So that makes sense. I hear you. It feels really good when somebody notices something about us. I'm asking how you know there's a God.
Okay, can I say it now?
Yep. You're unmuted.
Yes.
Am I unmuted? So the preacher said you didn't have no joy. I searched myself, examined myself. I didn't have any.
James, are you going to answer my question, or are you just going to tell the story again?
Well, you keep interrupting me. I'm trying to answer it now. Every time I get to the point of saying, look, now can I talk, or do you want to talk?
You can answer my question. You can answer the question.
What is your question?
You don't know. James, do you really not know what my question is?
What is your question? Ask me your question.
I already asked it twice now. I've asked it twice now. Can you tell me what I asked? That's actually my question now. What did I mute you for to ask?
You asked me what did I say to make you feel that what I'm saying is true?
Not to make me feel.
Tell you that.
I don't want to feel anything. I want to know that a God exists like you do.
To let you know. You asked me what did I say to make you know? And I'm finna tell you that right now. Are you ready?
I've been ready and waiting, and you keep repeating yourself.
Yeah, you're just
continuing. Y'all started talking. I'm saying I want to answer it right now, but you won't let me answer it. I'm listening to you. Go ahead.
Okay. I feel like there's some kind of a lag situation because we keep talking over each other. So just mute you for a second while I talk, and then I'll unmute you. I was saying, I think there's like, I don't feel like we're getting anywhere or we're having our questions answered when you continue on with the exact same story you were telling 5 minutes ago before we asked the questions. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to unmute again, and maybe we'll do the mute unmute thing so that we can take turns because of the lag and everything. Go ahead. You're unmuted.
Okay. Can I talk now?
Yes.
All right. So when the man said I didn't have no joy, I started to vacate the scene. Then another voice said in my head, you know he right. And that was the voice that got me. See, because I knew I didn't have no joy. I knew the preacher couldn't know that I have any joy or not. But that other voice inside of me said, you know he right. Then he told me what I could do to get joy. So I went over, surrendered myself, told me first I needed to be baptized for the remission of my sins. I was a sinner, wasn't no doubt about that. I went up, got baptized, came up out of the water, and my sins were gone.
Okay.
Then they told me, now you can get filled with the Holy Ghost. So I went up and I got filled with the Holy Ghost. And when the Holy Ghost came in, it was pure joy. I mean, pure joy.
James,
so
you're telling us a story, and there's still
I'm telling you what happened. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna mute it.
We're gonna talk now. Yeah. You're telling us that a story. I am nowhere closer to believing that a God exists than before you called. Oh, and sorry, I interrupted. I know you're going to say something.
No. I muted it so that you could talk. And let me just add that you told us at the beginning of this that something happened to you where you were given a message in your head and the results made you believe that it was real. So the thing that you heard in your head was that you didn't have any joy. That's very easily something that you could have conjured up yourself. There wasn't I was expecting some kind of a story of God told you there was a moldy piece of bread under your bed, and sure enough, there it was, or something. And it looked like Jesus. I don't know what I expected, but I'm not sure how we got anywhere with this. Okay, I'm going to unmute you again. There you go.
Okay, now that was the same voice that told me to get off the bus and go over to see what they were doing. So I rode 3 blocks down from the park where they were at.
How do you know that voice? Yeah. How do you know that voice wasn't your own thoughts?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying the voice in my head told me to go back and see what they were doing. I was on the bus. I rode 3 blocks down from the park, got off the bus, walked back down there to see what they were doing. I didn't know it was a revival in the park. When I got to the park, it was a revival there. I was finna leave, and then something caught my attention when he was talking about how do you spell relief. And then he said I didn't have no joy.
Got your attention. So, James, I'm going to be honest. Yeah. We've got 2 other callers that I hope actually have evidence for us. If your whole evidence is just a personal story that so far is not even very interesting, then that's not evidence for a God. That's not a reason to know that a God exists. And I'm not convinced at all.
I'll tell you what you do. You go to the 9th chapter of the book of Acts and read Paul's story.
I've read it many times. I was studying it. I was studying
exact same thing.
James, I used to pray in tongues. I used to be a worship leader.
You can go. I'm through with it. You can go. Maybe I'll call back again. But it's that exact same thing that happened to Paul happened to me. The exact same thing that happened to Paul.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again. I'm just going to tell you that you having a personal experience is not evidence for the existence of a God. It's evidence that you had an experience, if we even choose to believe you. Oh, he's gone now. But that was rough. That was really rough. I don't know that any other hosts are going to want to take that call, but
yeah, it was hard to understand because I don't know if there's a delay or what, but he's most definitely talking over us a lot. So not a whole lot we can do.
I think it's that's the difference between a caller that's calling to have a conversation and a caller that wants to preach. And I've been preached at so much of my life. That's not evidence for a God. So
yeah. And I was really hoping for a moldy piece of bread story or something, but
right. That actually sounds interesting. Okay. We've got two callers left.
Robert, I'll pull him in if you're good with that.
Yes, please.
Okay, we got you on the line, Robert. Prophecy provides proof of God's existence. Lay it on us.
Yes, that is correct. Greetings, everybody. Peace be with y'all. What are you guys' thoughts on prophecies that have come to pass and prophecies that are currently happening as we speak? What are your thoughts on those things? Since they can't too much evidence.
Here are my thoughts on it. I haven't seen any evidence that prophecy has been fulfilled. Which prophecies are you talking about? You're talking about the book of Daniel? I mean, there's usually what people go to.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, because Daniel has a lot to do with prophecy, but the prophecies of the Bible are found throughout, from the beginning to the end, and that's how how you're certain. There are certain proof that what the book is talking about. Because if you
Okay.
read like a prophecy if you read a prophecy on a text, and then you go with that, and then the prophecy happens, um, you know, put that doubt, like, okay, that was just one quick thing. But if you have several texts that describe the same prophecy, and then the prophecy comes to pass, then there are no coincidences there, but solid proof.
Hold
Okay.
on.
I'm not.
Are you talking about when the Bible makes a prediction and then later on it happens in the Bible?
No, it happens in our lifetime, on our current
Can
time.
can you give me like one of these prophecies?
Well, the biggest one is going to be the birth of Israel. Uh, so in the book of Jeremiah and throughout the book, but specifically to be more specific, in the book of Jeremiah, God describes, he shows a basket of figs to Jeremiah, God himself. And he asks Jeremiah, you know what these are? And he says, figs? And he says, no, this represents the people of Israel. Israel is a fig tree, right? In Matthew 24, Jesus tells them a parable because they're asking him, tell us what things are going to be like at the end of the age and when on your return. So he starts predicting everything that was going to happen: wars, rumors of wars, technologies, and all these things. And then he
Robert,
says, "But
Wait,
learn a lesson."
rumors of war is
No, wait. Okay, no, look. I'm just gonna just for context. But then he says, learn a lesson from the fig tree. And
I'm
he
not
says, when
sure
its twigs
anything.
shoots. Okay, so basically, what he says is that the tree, when it comes back alive, then that marks the end of the time, the last hour of time. So the fig tree coming back to life, coming back was going to be the rebirth of Israel.
how do you
Okay,
know
I'm not.
that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that proves anything. I'm not sure how
Huh?
we
Yeah,
know any
that's
of that.
super vague.
Well, we're talking about it. So we have that, right? So as Christians, we know that, we understand as well. Now, someone who's not believing it, who
Robert,
doesn't believe in it,
you,
he
first of
not
all,
believe.
Robert,
Yes.
you're cutting out a tiny bit, and also you're not. I just asked a question, and I feel like you're not even in this for a conversation. We're trying to figure out what
Oh, I'm sorry.
you're
Maybe I didn't catch it. Sorry
right.
about that.
So
Probably didn't catch your question. Can you repeat it?
yeah, I'm trying to understand how you're getting that is a prophecy from a god, because to me that sounds very vague, and it sounds like after all of these things were said, or after different things were had happened, people try to go back and say, oh, that must have been what that was about. Kind of like so on the side, I write songs sometimes. It's really fun, and it's so cool because I'll put a song out and people will take different parts completely different than what I actually wrote the song about, because they're vague enough that people can relate to them and apply their own meaning and say, oh, that's about this thing that happened. It's like, well, it's actually about this, but I see how you can put it there, because things are really vague. And so when you write songs about heartbreak, it's funny how people can apply that to personal situations. When you make predictions about war, famine, very common things that like bad weather, countries forming and not forming and fighting each other, like those are things that have happened throughout humankind and will continue happening, clearly. So I'm trying to understand what is something that has made you be like, wow, there is absolutely a God.
Okay. Well, there's in the book of Romans, chapter 1, it says that the existence of God is before us, so nobody has an excuse not to believe in God. But if we want to we're talking about proof. Your song, if you write a
Robert,
song,
you didn't
and
even,
I'm just
you just
listening to
made
it.
some flippant comment after not responding to anything I said. I'm not understanding. You said there's
Yeah,
no
you said
excuse
something.
for not
You said,
believing in a
okay,
God. I
listen,
don't need an excuse for it. I
listen.
simply don't believe because I don't think there's good reason.
Okay, I get that. In your song, right? When you write a song, you the way you word your song, if someone takes the time to analyze your song and play it slow and sing it and learn the lyrics, they will be able to connect deeper with the specifics of your breakup. Now, look, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 66,
I'm so
starting from
lost.
verse 8
Yeah, Robert.
down. Okay, in the book, okay, hold on, listen, please. You can understand this. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, from verse 8 and down, it says that the birth of Israel was going to happen in one day. It says, who has ever seen things like this? Can a nation be brought forth in a mere moment? Can a nation be born in one day?
Literally when they literally sign documents. So Robert, that's so vague because yes, a nation can be, quote, brought forth in a moment. But also, were there not wars and so much happening leading up to it? Yes, one could argue that it took thousands of years for this country to form. It wasn't born in one day. Literally, it wasn't, because the people of Israel didn't just all of a sudden exist in one sudden day. So you've already lost me. This is already a shit prophecy.
I thought you were going to give better prophecies.
And if you read, well, I have several, but look, if you read the newspaper, it says in 1948, Israel was declared a nation. President Truman recognized the nation 11 minutes after the declaration, therefore giving birth to the nation in one day. Let's move on. Let's move on. You guys don't like that.
I got to respond to that. I've got to ask you something here. I'm wondering, do you think there's any possibility? All right, let me just frame it this way. Was Truman a Christian? The answer is yes. Do you think there's any possibility that maybe he, recognized it because it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because he wanted Israel to exist, because he believed that would fulfill, the end times preconditions for like the apocalypse or whatever? Is that a possibility with this one?
There's always a possibility.
Okay, well, I feel like personally, the way I see it, prophecy is something that is absolutely irrefutable and cannot be disputed because it is so dead to rights. This is like, for example, I write down a note that says this person is going to die on this day, at this hour and this minute, and before they die, they're going to say these words or whatever, and I put it in an envelope and I mail it to myself. So it's sealed, and 5 years later, when that person dies, I pull it out, and it's very specific. And it says all of these very specific things that couldn't have possibly been known unless it was sent divinely or something. That is what I would accept as a prophecy, not somebody believes that this thing needs to happen, and so
and then they can make it happen.
Well, okay, well, check this out. All right, so we have Truman is dead now.
But Robert, I'm just gonna, because we're getting toward the end of the show, I'm gonna try to speed this up real quick and explain something to you. I was a devout Christian. I was obsessed with the Bible. I was studying it in ministry school. I was studying the, quote, prophecies, and part of that studying is what caused me to realize, oh shit, I don't have reason to even think these are prophecies. Unless you can pull something out of your Bible that was not in mine, that is actually a prophecy, like Owen said, where it is saying this, and this on this day and these specifications, and there's zero other chance it could be anything else other than what I'm saying. Even if you could present me with that prophecy, which I already know does not exist in the Bible, then you still have to get me to, it was a God that delivered that.
Okay, let's move on because we're going to get out of subject here. Okay, so the book of Job, chapter 26, verse 7. Okay. How can you guys explain that verse?
What is it again? It was Job what?
Job 26. Job chapter 26, verse 7.
He spreads out the northern skies over empty space. He suspends the earth over nothing. I'm not sure. What am I supposed to be surprised by?
is not suspended over nothing.
Well,
Spoiler.
it is common. It is common knowledge that floats an empty space covering for us now, but back in the day, nobody knew what that even meant.
Do you think that Job was talking about space?
You know, this book of Job was talking about anti-gravity, how gravity, how space. He's basically describing. We can't deny it.
I can deny
what?
it. Are you saying that
this is so vague?
Oh, okay. Let's move on to another one. Let's go now.
Robert, you're just
Jeremiah chapter 10.
Robert, you don't get to decide what we move on to.
Look,
we're going to talk about this for a second. Nope, I'm going to mute you if you keep interrupting me.
Well, because
we're going to talk about this. This is a vague.
You know?
I'm going to mute you. Okay. We're talking about, you think this verse, he spreads out the northern skies over empty space. Why? I don't know why that's interesting to you. If I'm just a person sitting looking at the earth and I'm trying to talk about a God, that sounds, of course, I'm going to say he spreads out the stars over the, he suspends the earth over nothing. Because what's the alternative? That now Job is going to give us some groundbreaking news that there's actually so much stuff going on underneath us, holding us up. What else is he going to say other than suspended over nothing? It's also wrong. The earth is not suspended over, quote, nothing, because nothing doesn't exist.
And one more thing that I want to add, and then you can go. I think inherent in this claim is the idea that Job believes or was given the concept of space and time as a single entity, and that he understood like special relativity and stuff. Like, I'm not sure. Additionally, when you're pulling apart words and like looking at like past participles and stuff in the Bible, it's fraught. It's pointless because the Bible has been translated a billion different times by a ton of different people, and the words that are used to mean like nothing or whatever, I would just about guarantee didn't actually mean that when it was written down. Anyway, okay.
Okay, so then, well, I've actually studied the Bible. I've acquired original copies from the original text, different ones.
You have acquired original copies. Please explain that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can buy them. You can buy literal photographs of the manuscripts, and they come
which
to you in a book, and
manuscripts, Robert?
Huh?
Which manuscripts are you referring to?
Hebrew manuscripts of the Bible.
Of which books?
And Greek.
Which manuscripts do you have?
I got the manuscripts in Hebrew for the Bible that we recognize today with the 66 books. So okay. I can actually. But wait, hold on. Wait.
Okay, go ahead.
Guys,
Robert, I feel like you're lying right now because that doesn't we don't have full, quote, manuscripts of those. I'm not sure what you're talking about. We have copies of copies of copies. We have a lot of the copies that we have are these little tiny fragments. I actually went to Israel and saw the Dead Sea Scrolls myself. It's kind of sad and scary how little of a piece of nothing basically we have built a religion on.
I mean, we have different. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have the scrolls that have been kept by the Jews, and then we have the Ethiopian scrolls. So we have all these back up each other.
Also, do you speak these languages?
I'm learning Hebrew. I need to Brady.
Okay,
so,
I actually ancient Hebrew, the version that was spoken. When the Dead Sea Scrolls were set or whatever, because it's not really the same. They didn't even have vowels at the time in their written language. So do you speak that Hebrew?
Look, about speaking it, it's about understanding it. So you know what the word means, and you know how the word. So you recognize these words and you understand them. About speaking it, nobody really knows how exactly it sounded like back then. But yes, I do have a little bit of knowledge in Hebrew and Greek. And plus, beyond that, it doesn't really matter how much knowledge I have. If I have the will I can acquire. I can acquire.
No, you're not an expert. You cannot. If you have the will, you cannot go into this and read the originals and understand them like an expert can. I have tried, and I'm not an expert, and I came to completely different conclusions than the experts. So I defer to the experts.
Yep.
It's not your thing. You don't like it. Look, we
Robert,
all like
it's not
things,
your thing either, because
not,
based on what you're saying, I was just a homeschooled little Christian kid, know more about the Bible and the origins of the Bible than you do. I think you're just throwing stuff out there, but you're.
How do you know?
I don't think you actually know what you're talking about.
How did you know? Well, okay. How do you know more than me? Okay, let's. It doesn't really matter how much I know.
Based on the fact that you told me that you have original manuscripts of, quote, the Bible, that's already just a wildly impossible statement.
Copies, right. Original manuscript. Copies of original manuscripts. There are a billion. Some of them are little credit card shaped things. You can't possibly have the original manuscripts because we use like 6 or 7 different manuscripts at different points in the Bible to try to transliterate or whatever.
Okay, look. So the Bible doesn't exist. The Bible was written 10 years ago. Is that what you're telling me?
No, that's not what we're telling you at all.
I'm saying that it's like an ancient.
Well,
it's a bunch of ancient writings written by dozens of people from different social classes across thousands of years that contradict each other, every 5 minutes in the Bible. And we've collected.
They don't okay, tell me, give me a contradiction, and I will show you that it's not.
Oh boy, okay, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. If you give me 1 second, I will pull this thing up that I find particularly interesting to show you. Hold on. It's called
While we do that, can you tell me which of the original manuscripts you have copies of?
The Septuagint.
The Septuagint.
No,
okay.
That's not. No, but that's not what I'm asking you. So I'll give you a hint. The Dead Sea Scrolls are one of them. What else do you have? Do you have anything from the New Testament?
No, the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls have been found later, recent.
Do you have anything from the New Testament? Oh, please look at your screen right now. This is good.
These are all of the contradictions that, or this is just some of them. I can click on any of them and let's see. Is it okay to call your father for anyone else? I'm sorry. Is it okay to call your father or anyone else father? It's contradicted in Matthew 23:9, Ephesians 6:2, 2 Kings 2:12. These are super basic ones, but there are some really groundbreaking, important contradictions. For example, did Jesus, when he was dying, did he say, "Why have you forsaken me, my God?" Or did he say, what was the other thing he said? I mean, the Gospels contradict each other on really important details all over the place. So the Bible contradicts itself a lot. And this is just a simple visualization.
All right. Okay, let me explain something to you. When Jesus died and he said, Eli, Eli, Shabbatani. When he said that, Father, Father, why have you forsaken me? Okay, that right there, my God, he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? If you understand, Jesus never referred to God as God. He always, throughout the New Testament, until that point.
I'm not sure what this has to do with the fact that there are contradictions all over the place, like all through it.
Okay, wait, hold on. I told you, give me one contradiction, and I'll explain to you how it's not a contradiction. Can you give me a chance to explain that?
Robert, you sitting here doing mental gymnastics to try to cling to your belief is not the same as saying that it's not a contradiction.
It was chapter 22. It was Psalm 22.
I don't know why you're yelling at us.
Open up. Oh, it's because it's so frustrating, guys. Look, open up Psalms 22. Open up Psalms 22.
I know what you're going to refer to here. I know that you're saying that it was some reference to like an ancient thing. No, it wasn't. You're incorrect on that point, but I don't even feel like arguing over it. It's completely irrelevant.
No, wait. Okay. You know what Psalm 22 is about? What is Psalm 22 about? Tell me. What is
I don't even
Psalm about?
The whole thing now, but it's connected to Jesus saying those words and fulfilling something in the Old Testament or whatever, and it's not even connected to reality.
Let me
ask you this. Robert, let me ask you this. Who did God create animals first or humans first?
According to the Bible, he created humans first.
And where are you getting that
Oh
from?
no, he created animals first. I'm sorry.
Guess what? You're
Bible,
right. You're right. You're
it.
right both times. You are right both times because we have two different accounts in Genesis 1 and then in Genesis 2. So we have one account where the Bible says that humans are created after animals. They're created last. And we have another account saying that Adam was first, then animals, then Eve. So there's one for you. Is salvation by faith?
No. He didn't. No, he didn't say he created them.
Robert.
He had Adam name them.
Oh,
wait, hold on.
That's not what it says. Owen's got another question for you.
You guys are slick. Wait. You guys are slick.
We're not slick, Robert.
I got you. I got you.
I'm muting you.
I got.
Okay.
So, Robert, we're not slick. We don't believe, and we're trying to share with you our reasons why what you're offering us is not a good reason to believe. That's not about being slick. We're actually being honest and presenting the quote evidence that we have that what you're saying is not true. You're saying there's no contradictions. We're offering you the contradictions. That's not being slick. That's called being honest in a discussion when we're making claims.
And we're not trying to get one over on you, Robert. We just want to understand, and we've given you a few things so far, and I'm going to give you another. Was it 7 of the clean and 2 of the unclean on the ark, or was it just 2? Also, why does it say that rabbits chew cud incorrectly? That's not a contradiction. That's just this flat out error. Rabbits are not cud chewers.
Okay, can we do one by one?
Okay, sure, yeah. Why does the Bible say that rabbits are cud chewers when they're not? Cud chewers, for anybody listening to, like, audience that may not be familiar, where they chew grass, it goes into another stomach, it comes back up, they chew it again, digestive system, so on and so forth. Rabbits do not do that, and it's it's important based on which are unclean. Okay,
let's do Psalm 22. Let's do the where it says, my God, where have you forsaken me?" Let's do that.
We're not going to that. It's completely irrelevant. Why don't you tell me why
Please
it says...
answer Owen's question.
No, wait. Okay. It's because we get, you guys brought up that question, and you guys know what the answer.
No, I didn't bring up that question.
Robert, Owen just...
You guys, okay, look. Open up Psalm 22, and then we'll move on.
Are you going to answer Owen or not? Because I'm not interested in this phone call if you're just going to dance around every single point we bring up, which is what you've done so far.
Look, guys, I think you guys.
This is a yes or no question, Robert. Are you going to answer? Robert, I don't care what you think of me. I'm asking you, as the host of this show, I'm asking you if you're going to answer the other host of this show, or if it's time to let this call go for somebody else who might show up more honestly in the conversation.
Owen asked me about Matthew, about Jesus.
I did not ask you about that. I did not.
No, Owen did not.
He didn't say that Jesus was said, my God, why have you forsaken me? He didn't say that?
No, I used it as an example of a contradiction in the Bible. I did not bring up why would he say that. I said it's a contradiction in the Bible between the different gospel accounts.
And
I wish so completely irrelevant to anything.
That's what Robert is doing, because Robert's unable to actually answer our questions and instead bounces to whatever thing he can possibly address instead of staying on topic and engaging honestly. Robert, do you remember the other things that Owen just very clearly pointed out and asked you about that you have ignored?
He said something about rabbit chewing the cud, about clean rituals. Look, if you guys get here and take this conversation simple, you want to get into deep Jewish
so you're not going to answer. Okay, well, Robert, thanks for calling. I'm done. I'm hoping this next person is going to be more honest in the discussion. You can call back sometime.
Well, no, I'm honest.
You haven't answered.
I'm honest in my discussion, but
we've been on this call for 25 minutes, and all you've done is tap dance around and interrupt over and over again. So we're going to move on. But thanks for calling. Have a good night. Sorry, we're toward the end of the show anyway, so I figure we'll get this last call in real quick and talk to Derek, who has no preferred pronouns. Hey, Derek, you are on with Promise and Owen. How are you tonight?
I'm good.
It says here it says that you believe there's a God because evolution isn't real. Is that what you wanted to call in on?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I believe there is a God, because I don't believe in evolution. I think it's a lie that was made up.
Here's the problem. I do believe in evolution. However, there was a time in my life when I stopped believing in a God. So I was an atheist, but I still didn't know anything about evolution because I grew up Christian and I was raised with a terrible homeschool science education. And so during that time, I wasn't sure about anything when it comes to evolution, when it comes to the origins of the universe. I didn't know. I just knew I didn't have a good reason to believe there's a God. So for me, I don't understand what your disbelief in evolution has to do with whether there's a God or not. Either there's a God or there isn't. So what's your evidence that a God exists?
Well, to me, there's only like two ways the world and life in general was made, either God or, the Big Bang Theory, which I believe is a lie.
Why are those the only two options?
Because those are the only two to me that would make sense.
What if it's a simulation and there's a bunch of guys on computers that are programming all of this?
It's not a simulation.
How do you know that?
How do you
know? I know because I can feel things around me. Death is real. Pain is real.
They've programmed you to think
things
that.
Are real.
They programmed you to feel that way.
Right, yeah, we're not programmed. This ain't a simulation.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
I know that because we're living in the real world. Like everything around us is real.
Okay, so how do you know if something is true or not? This is not a gotcha. I'm trying to ask you, how do you detect what's real or not?
Because I can feel it. I can feel the phone in my hand. I can see the phone in my hand. So my phone is real because I'm currently using it.
Okay, gotcha. So based off of that, how do you know that a God is what put you here?
Because I believe the Bible.
Why?
Because evolution and the Big Bang Theory makes no sense at all to me, and the Bible does when it comes to creation.
And why? So Derek, then why aren't you willing to say, I don't know?
Why ain't I willing to say I don't know about what?
Anything about the existence of the universe. Do you know what the Big Bang is?
Well, because it don't make logic sense to me. Evolution and the Big Bang Theory, where I believe it's either like an explosion or expansion of the universe, and somehow, some way, life came from that. I mean, that makes no sense to me at all. That's logically, to me, that seems like it's impossible.
You are simplifying it to a degree that it's absolutely absurd. It makes complete sense. But either way, that doesn't really, proving evolution false does not validate your belief. This is something I see all the time with creationist TV shows and everything. They try to invalidate evolution as a method of validating their understanding of the world when they have nothing to do with each other.
Oh, I think Owen disconnected.
Yep. Wait.
Am I still here?
You're back.
Yes, you cut out in the middle.
Okay.
I was saying you can't. All right. I was saying you can prove evolution false, and it doesn't have any effect on Christianity's truth value. Makes a lot of sense to everybody else, but yeah, hopefully you guys got everything, and I didn't cut out for most of it. You get that?
Yeah. Yeah. So if for the sake of argument, would you guys just say that, okay, evolution and the Big Bang Theory is a lie? Just like put that on the side. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand.
That's what I tried to do at the
like
beginning of the.
All right, look,
That's
let
what I
me
tried to
give you
do at the
this.
beginning.
Yeah, I will give you this. The theory of evolution, there may be aspects of it that need to be refined and tweaked. For the sake of argument, we'll go with that. It's not a lie. I'm not even going to give that for the sake of argument, but okay. So evolution invalidated. What now?
Well, wouldn't you agree that there's only so many possibilities that are left? Either there's assimilation, aliens, or God, right?
There are a billion possibilities, and either way, it doesn't matter. The answer is I don't know if we don't have the answers. It does, like,
right.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
But the Bible claims that God created, life and the planet, and I believe that version.
The Bible claims that donkeys and snakes can talk.
Yeah, that snake was Satan.
No,
it wasn't. The Bible doesn't actually say that.
But it refers to Satan as being the snake.
No.
What about the talking donkeys?
Well, the snake is Satan.
Okay, whatever.
The talking donkeys, I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Good. That's a good place to be for that answer. Let's see if we can do that for some other things, because I don't think you have any good reason to believe the Bible's other claims about it creating the universe.
Well, can we just think about humans? Like, how did humans evolve from monkeys and apes when there's other monkeys and apes? How come they haven't evolved yet? And if evolution is a thing, does it have a stopping point, or does it, can we actually
Derek,
see evolution with our own eyes?
Derek, you said that you want to pretend, because I think you do need to go learn about science in general. Sorry, there's fireworks going off here. But and you should probably talk to Forrest. Honestly, I think you should just go read some stuff before then. But I'm granting you, we can pretend that that we don't know anything about the Big Bang Theory or about evolution. We can just say that Owen and I simply do not know. Our answer to all of your questions is we don't know. Now tell us why we should believe it's a God.
Because it makes the most sense.
It doesn't.
Logically.
No,
it doesn't make any sense to me. Explain to us how it makes sense.
Perfect sense. Okay, well,
so Derek, without talking about evolution or the Big Bang, explain to us how it makes sense.
Well, I know one of the things, I'm trying to get this right if I can remember it correctly. The Bible says I think it's from dust to dust we come, and from ashes to ashes we depart, or something like that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It says from dust to dust we came, and then from ashes to ashes, and that's what happens to our bodies after we die. We turn back to dust, or I can't remember exactly how it says, but
people are born and that they die, and that is your evidence for believing that the Bible is real, because it says that we're born and we die. I mean, that's literally been happening since the dawn of time. So,
well, that's just a piece of the puzzle.
Okay, well, I don't even want that.
Give us the
piece. Give me something else.
Yeah. Give us the piece that actually makes us know there's a God, because there's other books that also say that.
Well, I only can speak from the Bible. So,
why?
Why? Why haven't you read
because I believe what the Bible tells me.
Why? What if there's a book
out
there that makes more sense?
I believe that there's
Derek, what if there's a book out there that makes more sense than the Bible and makes completely different claims about how the universe came to be?
Well, I don't
What if
believe
you just haven't read it
books.
yet? Why? You haven't read them, so how would you know?
but I know about the other religions, right? Then I can compare those religions to the Jesus in the Bible.
Why? Why
and
do you care what the Bible says?
I can pick
Derek,
apart.
Derek,
well, I care what the Bible says because I believe it.
I
care what the Bible says because I believe it.
It's going to help you a lot if you listen. Why do you believe what the Bible says? Why do you believe the Bible over any other book?
Because the Bible makes more sense to me and it's more logical to me when I read it versus any other religion.
How do you know that if you haven't read other books that may make more sense?
Because from my experiences and what I already know about other religions and everything, I can compare that to the Bible and see which one.
This is a hypothetical, Derek. I don't think you're understanding what I'm asking. Hypothetically, if you were to read a book someday that explains the universe better than the Bible does, and it makes more sense, would you then concede and say that the Bible is not the best explanation? Would you then move on to the other book that explains it better?
I'm going to answer that no, because I don't believe there is a better book than the Bible.
Derek, I don't know if... Do you care if what you believe is true or not?
Yes.
Then why wouldn't you want to, if something else did make more sense, then why would you not admit that? Actually, here's the way I need to ask this question, Derek. Is there anything that could ever convince you that the Bible is not true?
When I die and I don't go to heaven or hell. And something else happens, you know?
So there's nothing in this lifetime that could convince you.
I mean, I'm kind of set in my ways, but I don't want to sit there and say I'm a closed-minded person because I am an open-minded person, you know?
I have to disagree.
I mean, like, if someone says, well, hey, I got, like, evidence as a fairy that made us and all this other stuff, well, I want to hear, like, what you think, you know? Like that. Like, I can take in other information and break down that information and come to the best conclusion for me, which is what I believe is the Bible, that God created humanity in the world. And I don't believe in the Big Bang and evolution because of all the questions and all the stuff that don't make sense around it, which brings me to the conclusion that evolution is a lie.
Okay, it seems
after
like
I rationally think about it.
All right, look, I'm going to mute you here just for a second. It seems to me... Okay, thanks. It seems to me like you value the idea of skepticism, but you absolutely are not skeptical, like, at all. You claim that you're open-minded and you want to, like, understand if somebody says a fairy or whatever else. You know, you pretend that you have this quality. You don't. And I like the idea that evolution is not accurate or whatever is completely irrelevant to this question. I don't understand how you got there. I'm telling you, I have read those other books that have, like, you know, an explanation or other explanations for our creation. I've read those books, and I've come to find that they're equally as vapid. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna unmute you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I read the Bible and it just makes sense to me. And so, like, any other thing anybody else says to me, I'll take into consideration. So you're wrong when you say that, you know, I'm not, whatever you were saying about me not being
Derek,
skeptical.
you just told me that the only thing that would make you no longer believe the Bible is something that would have to occur after you die. That's not having an open mind and taking other things into, because I asked you a hypothetical. I said, if you were to read another book that makes more sense than the Bible to you, would you change your mind about the Bible? And you said no.
Right. Yeah, unless I die, then I find out I was wrong.
Right.
But I
You're
am
not
open
reminded.
to other ideas and opinions about the Bible. Like, you guys don't think the Bible's true. I'm interested to know why you guys don't think the Bible's true about creation and all that, because it makes the most logical sense to me. So I don't understand how you guys
Any logical
find
sense,
that
Derek, we just said
came
in the
to
call
be in
before
the
this.
universe. That makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
No, we haven't said where we think the origins of the universe are, because my answer for you is I don't know. What we just discussed in the other call is that even Genesis, even your Bible that you've told us you believe, you love it over and over and over again, does not give the same story about the creation of the universe. It contradicts itself, and it doesn't even say what actually happened. It also doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh, sorry. Can you tell me those Bible verses? I just want to write them down so I can look for them at myself and see the contradiction.
So go read Genesis 1 and then go read Genesis chapter 2. In Genesis chapter 1, it says that humans were created last. And then in Genesis chapter 2, I believe, it says that Adam was created first, then the animals, and then Eve.
Okay, is that from two different perspectives?
No.
Or just one?
It's one. It's written as historical narrative, although it's actually antiquity literature. There's a whole bunch of complicated stuff, but the bottom line is it was written from one perspective, like one person telling the story.
And it doesn't make any it doesn't make sense with what we can observe in reality. It says that light was created before sun and stars. So we get light before we get the sun. And then that plants were created
maybe
before
God
the
was
sun,
the light.
which plants are dependent
I don't
upon
know
the
why I
sun.
said that, but yeah, I just believe it makes more sense than we came from monkeys or apes. Because if we came from monkeys or apes, why are there still monkey and apes?
Derek,
That makes absolutely no sense.
Derek, you've got to go learn more about evolution. I already said we don't need to bring up evolution because I don't think you have an understanding of it enough for us to have that conversation here. That's a whole nother conversation that I think you need to go learn more about, because you are simplifying something in a way that makes me feel like you've only heard Christian talking point or creationist talking points about that. But tell me how it makes more sense that God came and created out of dirt a human and then pulled a rib out of him and made a woman. Please explain how that magic, dirt magic and bone magic, is supposed to make more sense to me than any other explanation.
Because that is God. All things are possible with God. God can do anything. He can move mountains.
How do you know?
So it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not out of the realm of insanity or crazy to think that God could do such a thing, because God can do that.
Okay, then how do you know that God didn't start evolution and start that process and create the Big Bang?
Because he created Adam and Eve out of dirt or mud or however it's worded in the Bible. And then he took the rib from Adam, just like you said. We know the rib a woman came from the man's rib.
All right. Let me lay this down for you, okay? The book of Genesis is antiquity literature, and it's written as a historical narrative, but it's actually just a big collection of like campfire stories from the era. It was written around a time when they were trying to preserve their culture, so they asked stories. And you've probably heard this story about a scorpion and a frog. Scorpion wants to cross a river. He asks the frog, and the frog says, "No, you'll sting me if I take you on my back." Scorpion says, "No, I'm not going to do that." So they go across. Halfway through, Scorpion stings the frog, and he says, "Why did you do that? Now we're both going to die." And the scorpion says, "Because I'm Scorpion, that's what scorpions do." Something like that. It's a moral lesson that is in story form with talking animals and everything else. And it's told around some campfires. That is what the book of Genesis is. It is that type of literature. And additionally, I just want to point this out real fast. You said, why are there still monkeys and apes? This is completely irrelevant to the question, but I'm going to mention it anyway for anybody that doesn't understand it's like saying English evolved from the German language, or from Proto-German or whatever. Like German and modern day English evolved from the same place. So why do we still have German? Or it's like saying the Australian accent and the British accent came from the same place originally. Why do we have two different accents, and why does one still exist or whatever? That's the question that you're asking. It is not a conundrum. It's not something that's not well understood by scientists. It's irrelevant. I just want to lay it out for you. Anyway.
I don't feel like that's irrelevant at all. I feel like that's a perfect question. Why are there still apes and monkeys? The scientists say that we came from apes and monkeys, and that we evolved into humans from ape and monkeys. But yet there's still ape and monkeys running around, and we don't see them evolving into humans.
Sorry, bud. I'm going to mute you. That is not what scientists say. They do not say that we come from apes and monkeys. We are apes. We are the fifth great ape. Monkeys are also in the ape family or whatever. Nobody is saying we came from monkeys. And modern day apes, modern day gorillas, monkeys, humans, we all came from a common ancestor. And we know this beyond a shadow of a doubt. For example, because the whale has feet bones. It has feet because it's a mammal. It evolved from something very similar to like a hippopotamus, for example. And it just got into the water and never crawled back out. As a species, of course. Anyway, all right, I'm unmuting you again. Just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Scientists have actually said that we come from monkeys and apes. That's actually a real thing. That is what we come from.
That's not. Derek,
according to scientists, yes, that's what they say.
Okay, I'm muting you. I don't think you're equipped to have this conversation. And I think, I tried to give you the benefit of getting to talk about this without bringing up evolution and the Big Bang Theory, but it seems that all of this hinges on your misunderstanding of science. And I think you should go learn so that if you are going to call and argue this with us, you actually know what scientists are claiming, because they're not claiming that at all.
Wow. Yeah, they actually are claiming that. They actually are.
Derek,
you can look it up. Anybody listening, look it up right now. Those are the facts. I can bring it up to you right now if I was with you on Google. Google it.
Derek.
Google it. That's all you have to do.
If you continue
I can't believe you're denying the fact that scientists say that we come from monkeys and apes.
He's not paying
I can't believe you're denying. That is a fact.
He's done. He's done
Should
talking.
We just drop him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we tried, Derek. Oh boy, he just was not getting it. I think that he's insisting that just because, I think it's his misunderstanding. I think he's trying to say we don't think that we evolved from apes. I don't really understand what. Painful.
I think that yeah, absolutely. I think he just heard something from a creationist, whatever, and he latched onto it and absolutely insists that that is how the world operates, when in fact, we did not evolve from apes. We are apes. We are the fifth great ape. We did not evolve from monkeys. Anyway.
Well, and apparently they're saying in the chat that Erica has already explained to this caller before that the claim is that we come from a common ancestor.
Right. I don't know of a single scientist that makes that claim.
No, not at all. And I'd love for him to, he apparently did call and talk to a scientist. So also, I don't know. It's really sad for me how much we hear from callers that are clinging to a dogmatic belief because of their lack of information. It always comes down to a lack of something they could know if they wanted to learn, or something that none of us know, and they're just not comfortable with that. Like what happens when we die, or, before the Big Bang, all of that stuff. Very frustrating. But I feel like we still had some interesting callers. I had fun.
Absolutely.
Talking to these dudes. It was a good time. You had banana cream pie. I'm very jealous. I just remembered that I have chocolate fudge brownie ice cream in my freezer. So that's what I'm going to go.
Oh my God. That sounds awesome.
It's going to be a good time. Well, thanks everybody else for hanging out with us tonight. That wraps our show. Arden, thanks for chiming in with the insanity comment as well. I always love when the voice of God pops in on the
I try not to. And
No,
I
I love
sometimes
it.
forget I even have a psychology degree, but listening to someone so misinformed be so confident, it's painful.
Yeah, I feel you. Well, thanks again to, of course, Arden for being an amazing producer, to the rest of our crew, mods, screeners, you all are the best. And please like, subscribe, share the video, all the things that helps us over here at the